Okay, so we'll go ahead and get started here. Thanks again to Bernat and Mickey hopping on again for part 3 of our coaching education series here. Today we're going to be doing a Q&A session with them, and if you haven't been checking out some of the things that they've been putting out, there's a lot of great content they've been putting on Twitter. And I'm part of their online membership, and they've put some great videos, some analysis of actually a Man City game that really went into a lot of detail, and it brought out things that I wouldn't have picked out in the game, certainly. So I think it's some really good content they're putting out, and got some good questions today. Thanks for submitting those for you on the call. So we'll go through some of those questions. I submitted them already to Bernat and Mickey, so they've had a chance to take a look at them and prepare a little bit. So what we'll do is kind of go through the questions that you submitted, and then kind of at the end, if we have enough time, just take any over chat that you'd like to have answered. So with that, Bernat, Mickey, do you have anything you'd like to say before we start?
No, just we plan on the questions that you gave it to us, Ryan. But if during the conversation coaches want to ask more questions, there is no problem. And so also, if we need to share some examples so they understand better what we are saying, please feel free to ask whatever you need. And we are planning on answer these questions, but we are looking to answer more of them. So whenever you want, we can start. Mickey and I, we will answer the questions depending of which one. So I think the first one will be for Mickey.
Okay.
So we can start.
Yeah, so I'll go in order how I received them. So the first question we got was, what are the main concepts for offensive and defensive transition when you're teaching your players?
Yeah, that's for me, I think. That's a good question. And there are several angles or perspectives into it. At the end of the day, even though we want to have a collective idea on the moment of transition, both when it's defense to attack and attack to defend, even though we want to have our identity as a collective, also the trigger, to say it somehow, it's executed by individual players, because the team as such recovers the ball, regains possession when we are defending and we transition to attack, but there is only one individual who recovers that ball. So this is something that needs to be clear. We describe as we have recovered or regained the possession, but actually the ball has been regained by an individual. And the same thing happens on the transition attack to defense. We have lost it as a collective, but actually someone or an individual has lost the possession of the ball, and it's an individual who is going to be near or far away from the placement or the location where we have lost the ball. So this is something really important. In APFC, there are collective fundamentals or team foundations as well, but everything can be explained to a certain individual, because at the end of the day, all the decisions that are taken in a soccer game probably are individual decisions. Basically, and to go straight to the point, first I'm going to talk about the transition attack to defense, and what are the key elements to look at, and what are the inputs to attend to. The first thing is, how we have lost that ball. That's the most important thing, and that's an input that you can really teach the individuals and the team. Maybe we have lost that ball after a long pass, trying to take advantage of the space at the back, the space at the back line of 4. So if we try to take advantage of that space by using a long ball and we lose that ball, probably it's not going to be very clever to ask our players to press back to that ball in order to regain it again, because we will probably have less players around or surrounding this area, and it's going to be challenging for us. But instead, if we have lost this ball after doing a series of passes, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, obviously, the more passes we do as a team, probably it will mean the more close we are to each other. So then it really makes sense to ask the players to press on that particular ball. So this is the first input. How we are losing that ball, how many passes we did as a team after or before losing that ball, and to get this idea as a key element and a detail to understand whether we will be more likely on pressing, or on the other hand, we will probably have to fall back and get back in shape and onto an organized defending structure. This is the first thing. Also, after the how, there is obviously the where we have lost this ball. If we have lost it at opposition's half, probably or most likely it's gonna be in a situation where all of our players, or larger numbers of our players, there will be already in that half. So maybe it makes sense to press again on that situation and not let the opposing team to start their organized attack. If we lose it at midfield zone, to say it somehow, at progression zone, around and beyond the half line, it's gonna be a matter of who is the nearest player and what's his behavior, and what do the players who are far away from that location. Because if we all press that ball, maybe we have enough space at our back, and if we don't win it, someone can use that space that it's at our back and probably counterattack. And if we lose it in our own half, obviously, as we will be probably building up and will have major units or a larger number of players surrounding the situation, we will have to press that ball. But the key detail, it's first the how we lost it. That's the first question. We were playing long, or we were playing or we have played a long sequence of passes. And then obviously the where. And in regards to the where, it's important to differentiate or to split, if possible, a little bit the roles between the player who is nearest to the ball lost, players who are a little bit far away, and obviously the farthest away players from that situation, because the behaviors, they are going to change as well. To the nearest ones, we will tell them to rapidly press that ball or not, but that's going to be the role. And to the near ones and to the farthest aways, probably we tell them to start keeping the balance, thinking about both situations, whether we win it or whether opposing team wins possession. So just to sum up, in transitions, attack to defense, two questions: how we lost it, where we lost it. How, it's going to tell us the strategy that we might use after losing the ball, press or fall back, and the where, probably it's going to make the differences, and it's going to split the roles amongst the several players in regards to the distance from their position and the current position where the ball has been lost. This is the main thing. On the other hand, on the transition defense to attack, again, we have to look at this kind of inputs. What is the space available at the back of opposing team? What is the space available at the back of the line of 4? There is a space. Opposing team was really playing at our half. Yes, there might be space. Then if we recover, probably we'll ask to recover the ball and beat lines or pass it to a farther away place in order to start the counterattack. If we recover that ball, but there is no really space at the back of the opposing team, probably the intention behind or after recovering that ball would be to recover it and keep it in order to start an organized attack and start finding these advantages that we attempt to build throughout the positional play. A very important detail as well in the transition from defense to attack, it's a thing that Albert actually told in the video of Man City, that the most important players, once we understand the role, obviously, of the guy that regains ball possession, it's the role of the teammates who are far away from that location, because normally those teammates are not well covered or are not well taken care of by the opposing team. And by activating the teammates through a pass that are far away or a little bit more far away from the position where we have recovered the ball, it's when we can start the counterattack, or if not, because the other team falls back quickly and the chances are gone, at least by playing far away, long distance passes, not air balls, but passes that maybe run for just 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds, we have time enough to let again the other teammates move back into a composed structure to start the attack. So this is the key. This is the key on the transition defense to attack. Is there a space available? Yes, let's go for recover and beat, and let's activate the farthest away ones with the first pass. There is not space available. Let's recover and keep. Still, we should activate the farthest away ones, but instead of looking them maybe ahead of our position, we will look at them in the same horizontal line that we stay, doing switch fields, or maybe even at the back by using any of the players who stand in the back line of 4, or even the goalkeeper. Those are the main concepts. Those are the main ideas, general ideas to understand both transitions. We can explain them from a collective point of view, but at the end of the day, there's only one player that loses it, there's only one player that recovers it, and what they really need to be aware of is the space available to counterattack or keep it, in the case of transition defense to attack, or how many players are surrounding me. So if I run to press, that's going to be effective, and my effort, it's going to be worth. Basically, that's all what it or what you need to know in regards to the first question.
Okay, thanks, Mickey. Appreciate the detail on that. We'll move on to the next question. And again, if anybody has any follow-up questions, they can chat it in here when we get to a certain question, if you have any follow-up questions to ask. But we'll move on to the next one. Implementing concepts, key concepts, individual concepts here within the team.
That's for me. First of all, there are a lot of coaches that think that through teaching collective concepts, I will play better as a team. And too much coaches are obsessed in tactics or collective concepts to play better as a team. But really, the key is that by teaching the individual concepts, you play better collective. So it's kind of weird because individual means one player and collective means all the team, but it's through these individual concepts that your team will play better. So that's why we think that positional style, for example, should be taught through these individuals, because consequence of these individuals, your team will play better. So how we can teach these individuals? So as you know, when we talk about APFC methodology, we talk about all of these concepts, but we always say that these concepts must to be taught through the training structure. So what is the training structure? Training structure is rondos, positional games, SSPs, and small-sided games. But basically, these concepts that I'm reading here on this slide, back foot, head up, speak through the ball, all of these are concepts that we call it foundation concepts. Foundation concepts means that are the basic ones, the ones that actually are concepts but have to become habits. So in order to become these concepts into habits, you have to use a lot of rondos. In every single rondo, you have to force the player to head up. Try to teach them the detail, focus on that fundamental, the head up, the back foot, also in the rondos. So important. Remember that the back foot is the consequence of having a good body profile. If I have a good body profile, I have one leg close to my teammate and I have the other leg close to the opposite goal. So the back foot is control the ball with the farthest leg from where the ball is coming from, or the closer leg from where the goal is, the opposite goal. Remember that in soccer, our goal is to score a goal. So that's why we use the back foot to give directionality, to go forward, to try to go close to the goal. And the speed through the ball, the same. In the rondos, everything is through the rondos, because the players learn through experience, and they learn through situations. So rondo has so many situations that happen in a game, and it's through these players having the experience of applying these concepts in this structure that later they will recognize these concepts and these situations in the soccer game. The problem of teaching head up, back foot, speak through the ball through sequence of passes, or drills that they don't have directionality, or drills that there is no decision making, is that they will learn the concept, but then it will be so difficult to apply this concept in the soccer game. At the end, everything that we teach is to play better a soccer game. That's why we use structures like positional game, rondos, that follow the same directionality and are similar that what happened in a soccer game. So really all of these concepts, back foot, head up, speak through the ball, between lines, are concepts that we have to teach it through rondos, also through the positional games, especially between lines. It's more a concept for positional games, because in positional games, you know, there are three lines. There are the neutral, that is the center back, there is a midfielder line, there is the forward in the other side. So by creating three lines, you create space to play between lines. In the rondos, there are only two lines, and there is no between lines because there are no neutrals in the middle. So basically what I want to explain is that by using collective drills that you have the whole team playing, but focusing on these details, individual, it's the best way to teach these concepts, because so many times we focus on a collective drill and we are just focusing on the tactical goal. The goal is that we have to travel together and bring this ball to the next zone. Okay, that's so many times happening that as a coaches we only are focused with the objective, but the key, and is what we teach in APFC, is how we get to this goal. The how is this individual concept. So it's the coach that has to bring this content constantly. I don't know if this helps, and the question I understood it well, but that's my answer, and I think that that's the best way to implement these concepts. But the most important is thinking that the individuals help you to play better as a team. Okay, then when the individuals are understood, you can talk more about collective concepts. Let me use you an example of individual and collective concept. Individual, it's break lines. Okay, individual, it's body profile. Individual, it's play what you see. Collective, it's the third man. But really, what is the third man? Third man is a consequence of breaking the line and playing what you see. So as you can see, once the individuals are understood, you can go to the collective. So that's the answer. Hope that is helpful. And if it was not this, let me know, okay?
And Bernard, just to quickly follow up on that, and you don't have to spend too much time on it, but within your training structure, you have obviously the activities, and every activity really, I guess, would focus on the individual foundations, the habits, but there are part of the training session, like the SSP, that does focus on the collective, so a coach can work on both, hit on the different parts, not just individual, but also kind of progress it up to now integrating all those individual foundations or habits into the collective or the main objective of, within a session type of.
In rondos, it's teach the habits, these concepts. In positional game, you teach the habits with real positions, and you can add one concept. And SSP is exactly what you were saying, is how through these habits I can score a goal by using a collective concept. For example, I need the SSP to break the line, I need to use the back foot, I need to use the head up, but because in that weekend, I think that it's better to attack by playing inside and then use the outside players to create the advantage. So you create an SSP where you try to force the players to apply all of these concepts individual, but then the goal, the tactical goal of the SSP is the concept of play inside.
Okay. There's an addition to that, which is a very good question. Basically, in the rondos and positional games, you can just talk to the player individually. You shouldn't be focused on if the ball is well kept and your team does a series of passing sequences, or if they play fast or slow. You just focus on the individual and you try to let the player understand individually how he will be better related with his direct environment by using the individual foundations, which already give an intention to the play. And then in the SSP, it's where, despite even having as well the individual foundations, you might take your striker, your winger, and your midfielder, and you tell to them, look guys, when the ball is here, I would like that the winger who is in between lines makes a penetration run into the space, and the striker does a counter movement and comes near to the player of the ball. So one player moves in one direction, the other one moves closer. We try to disorganize the defending line, and we will make our striker receive between lines, because we think that by making this player receive between lines, we will manage better the situations where we can attack the last line of defenders. But your communication with the players already imply groups, and you are gathering them to tell, I want you 2, you 3, you 4 to try on this, to make or to take advantage of that space. Here is where we want to receive the ball. That's what we want to do. And you can do that with the winger, the striker, and the midfielder, or with both center backs and both midfielders. But your inputs, your information, it's already addressed to groups of players. While in the positional game on Rondo, if you address to a group of players, you are understanding it wrong, because you should be addressing to the player individually. That's it. That's the main thing.
Okay, thanks, Mickey and Bernat, for answering that question. Next one is so at the youngest ages, introductory travel age at U9, and possibly below here, which concepts do you mainly coaching? So thinking about 6 to 8, 6 to 9 year olds.
Okay. Well, first of all, we need to understand that in the first phase as a soccer player, we could say, as an example, 6 years old to 10, 11, it's really important that as a coaches, we try to understand which is the identity of that player. What does it mean by saying identity? Identity means that what is this player capable to do right without that the coach has taught to him. Like what this player is doing good by himself, not because the comprehension of concepts. So in order to create an identity, you need a lot of play freely, have a lot of freedom, a lot of play free, a lot of small games, a lot of actions. In these ages, it's super important, the 1v1 concept. Okay, a lot of actions where the players can take risks, try actions, and they can do mistakes. So we are not really obsessed on the concepts when the player is 8, 9 years old, because we want to make sure that we could develop the identity of this player. We can potence what he's doing good by himself, because if a player is doing something good by himself, that means that we can even improve that much more. Okay, and of course it's not only all about freedom, but at this age we understand in APFC that there are some concepts that we have to start teaching, because are concepts that in a long term, these concepts should become habits. These concepts are the foundation ones that I was talking about before, like head up, the back foot, using the back foot, the body profile, the concept of the ball never stop, which it means that my first control is already in execution. I cannot stop the ball to think. I need to have a good profile, head up, and with my first touch, move the ball. The concepts, mostly the individual concepts, okay, like body profile, back foot, head up, a lot of 1v1, okay, and then as the player grows, it's when it's time to introduce to this player more concepts, specifically depending of the zone or the position, like the forward across, the back across, how to defend inside the box, defensive preference. These are concepts that a player will need in another stage, at 12, 13 years old. But what I will say, my opinion, 9 years old, it's freedom, a lot of drills that is 2v2s, a lot of rondos, a lot of actions where the group of the players are not big. For example, I don't want to see positional games 7 versus 7 plus 3 in 9 years old. So we should find small structures to teach these habits, but at the same time divide the sessions into 50% the habits, the teaching of these habits, and the other 50 a lot of freedom, a lot of small-sided games. It's an age that we don't have to focus too much on the teaching of the concepts, but we can introduce these concepts I was talking about, the foundation ones, that I'll say you again: head up, the break lines, the back foot, the body profile, the ball never stop, and I'm sure that there are, and of course the details of the 1v1. These are concepts that even if the kid is 6 years old, he has to start learning. Okay, so that's what I think, that we think, depending also of not this. I think the year is important, but it's more important the level, because I have seen 9-year-old players that are incredible, and that I have, for example, in APFC trainings here in San Diego, that that we start teaching to them another concepts, you know, because the level is so high. But if we think that the player is starting to play soccer, I will tell you these ones, okay?
I'm gonna just add in picture what Bernard said, because, and then we'll share with you obviously the slides so you have a better understanding. So if I may share a screen. Yeah. Bernie, ho veus?
Sí.
Bernie was talking about this. Don't look at all the boxes, okay? Bernie was talking mostly about the first one. All this is basic information. All what you have here, basically in black, written in black, up to 28 different concepts. All those are individual foundations. They are, and they all contain, I mean, the name of the concept already allows you to guess what it's going to be inside, but each of them has a lot of small details, which is the relevant part, no? The advice that stays within each concept. And basically Bernat was talking about the first one, because if you look at the first one, it's kind of a DNA for the ball possessor. DNA meaning what it really makes us as a player. But those are concepts that generally, obviously, they can imply decision making, but those first 8 concepts, the DNA for the ball possessor, because at the end of the day, a kid who is 6, 7, 8, 9, what he likes is to have the ball. He's not going to care if you tell him to open up to provide the space for a teammate, because the stage at what they are, it's completely individual, and they look at themselves. So teach them concepts related with the ball while they are being the player with the ball or the ball possessor. Head up, back foot, ball never stops, control forward, play what you see, speak through the ball, visual fake, break lines. None of them has direct tactics or opposing teams. They will be opposing teams, but none of them really needs a well-sustained decision-making process. It's all what happens in their immediate surrounding, 360 degrees around them, to enable them to play freely and comfortably with the ball. We are not even talking about tactics. If the defender moves here, you go there, or pass here or pass there, nothing of that. We are providing him tools to make him comfortable with the ball, but you are being obviously very specific in the advice you are giving to the player, and the advice has a clear reasoning behind, and the logics of that advice, they are obvious. And then you would add the other boxes little by little, but at the first stages, go with box number 1, the DNA for the ball possessor. If you want more, because the players have a great level, as Bernie said, well, then work as well on the receptor, the ball receiver, which mostly he has to use a good body profile to watch the ball and the opposing goal, and to understand maybe the concept of between lines, because it's a space that it's crucial for soccer. Or maybe if you want the concept of offensive coverage, but those are already more advanced ideas. If you want to add decision-making processes to the player of the ball, well, explain him what does it mean to attack the ball, when he should dribble or when he should pass, what happens if he invites the opposing defenders towards the position he's holding, and how this changes the environment, and further scenarios open up for them. But at the early stages, where the players mostly or basically they want to have the ball, go for the box number 1. But this would be the slide that sums up a little bit everything in soccer in regards to the individual concepts. Here, there is none of tactics, there is none of systems, there is none of strategies, there is nothing of it. It's only information useful to the player to improve his ability to enjoy the game, which is crucial. Enjoy the game. That's it.
Great, thanks, Mickey. Go on to the next, next slide here. So, next question, and maybe we've touched on it before, so maybe spent too much time on this one, but individual foundations and their role in the structure of the positional games.
Well, positional games, obviously as a drill, they have, as we said in previous webinars, as a drill, positional games are designed to make the attacking team to keep the ball, because, well, we can also add goalposts, but it's not the usual thing to do. So basically we'll move the ball from one starting zone to an end zone, and that end zone is going to become the starting zone, and we will bring the ball back to the initial point. And within this structure that it's recreating a similar context than a soccer game, positional games, we will focus on the positions of the players, so they could be individual foundations in regards to their specific position, but again, obviously, same than rondos, mostly individual foundations to help them be efficient while playing soccer. So yeah, I would say that individual foundations drive the structure of any positional game. I don't know if Bernie wants to add something.
No, I think basically is what Mick is saying, and positional games are is a structure that we use to work on all of these individual concepts. There's a lot of coaches that think that positional games are too complex, where this player should go, where this player, which type of support. The same with the positional style. It seems that sometimes when we talk or we hear the word positional style, it seems that it's a super difficult concept to understand. And really, positional style, positional games, all of these are concepts that are understood through these individuals. The key of positional style is the execution of these individuals. Yeah, go ahead.
This is the most important, I think, statement in this webinar. I mean, positional play, positional game, Guardiola's positional style, all these things, obviously, because they are pros, they reach a level of complexity and they analyze the opposing team and they do specific adaptations. That's obvious. But positional play, it's nothing else than to really understand the individual foundations and to permanently or constantly apply them to the game. Because if you follow those individual foundations, your game, it's already gonna be organized somehow. Not as organized as we want to have it in our mind as coaches, but players will already have their game organized because we are telling them many things for them to efficiently relate with the ball and the nearest surroundings. So this is positional style, positional play. This is just a title. What it really matters, it's at the very beginning or as the first step, the individual foundations.
Okay, thanks, Mickey. We'll go on next question, speaking more specific regarding the striker position. I think some of your videos on social media actually touch a little bit on some of the kind of the movements and some of the gaps that open up that the strikers can take advantage of, but also create themselves. And so I think this is something that I think people I've heard a lot is that, you know, with a positional style or a lot of coaches see that their the attacking end of the game struggles. Their team can keep possession of the ball, but then when they get into the third zone, the attacking zone, they run out of ideas and they don't really know what to say to their front three, and maybe specifically here the 9. So I think it's a good question of you know, what can coaches start to think of when it comes to the attacking position there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for that. Well, the first thing it's to ask ourselves as coaches how we are reaching this last third, or if we are really in this last third, because maybe we think that we are in the last third, but we are really not. I mean, what is the last third? When starts the last third? I mean, if we still have to beat opposing midfielders, even though we are close to the opposing goal, we are not in the last third, because there are 2 lines still to beat. There is the midfield line and there is the back line of 4. So what does it mean to be in the last third? To be in the last third, it means to be behind the opposing midfielders in case they play with 3, or in case they play with a line of 4, 2 wingers and the 2 center mids, but it means to receive the ball there. Once we receive the ball there, once our players, one of our players controls the ball there, we are in the last third. Obviously, if the only one that controls the ball there, it's the striker, and he has a bad body profile, we will not be able to generate anything, because he has received the ball in the last third, but he has no numerical superiority nor positional superiority, because our aim is to make players who are in a lower line to receive the ball there. If our number 10, number 8, even the winger going inside, receive the ball inside those spaces, then we might have an advantage, because we have the one that has received the ball, that it's not the number 9, and the number 9 to make or create something. So this is the first question. I mean, using long balls, of course not, but thinking that the striker, just making the striker player receive the ball there, it's already being in the last third. This is also a misconception of what the last third means, and first, and it's important to know. So we need this additional player, not being the striker, to receive there. Then once we understand this, the second thing is, what do we want? We want to score a goal. So we can provide a lot of information that stops this decision making by the player and this creativity, and guides them more in a commanded way on what to do. This is what you prefer as a coach and your style. You might give more freedom to the player in case he's a quality one. You might want him to provide with a lot of tools, but then it's going to be very mechanic, and maybe you add a lot of frustration in that player if he's not able to do what you want. You'll add frustration on him, you'll add frustration on you. So then the thing it's gonna go wrong from the beginning. But in the last third, the ultimate or the basic target should be reach the box to shoot on target. And if we keep in mind this, the most primary way to do it, it's maybe simply by just shooting on target. Even it's not a good thing or a good positioning, but at least we're already producing an outcome. So this is something very important to keep. Maybe we want to over-evolve and develop our game and to achieve the 1v0 against the goalkeeper. Well, but that takes a lot of time and a lot of steps, and we have to have quality players. Maybe we should design a strategy to first follow the primary steps. Hey guys, hey number 8, you have received between lines, we're already at the opposing half. Maybe we could have done something further, get a penetration pass or an additional thing. Maybe yes, but let's look for the goal. Shoot on target, why not? Maybe you are covered, maybe you cannot, but at least you're already providing the player this ultimate intention to really achieve the goal. Then once the primary instinct is there, we can build up more specific concepts or information for the player to have additional ideas. Maybe we understand the positioning of the defenders and their body profile to find inside passing lanes to the striker or the opposite winger on our team. Maybe we add here one of the fullbacks overlapping on the flank to find a 2v1 situation outside. Maybe what is relevant on the last third, it's finding a situation to cross the ball inside the box. But the process would be understand what it is, teach your players the primary targets of being there, and then obviously evolve them if you still have problems. The more players you add or the additional players who are not already in that third and you want to make them receive there, it's going to be additional advantage that you'll have. And overall, the main or the strategy would be, once you have evolved those mechanisms, attack the last line of defenders, really attack them. By doing what? By trying 1v1s or 2v1s.
No, also, one of the, basically the two objectives that this number 9 has when we're playing positional style, it's first of all, when the 9 is not the first option of a line of pass, because the ball is in the zone 1 and the 9 of course is in the zone 3. In that timing, the 9 has to work on how he can help to bring this ball with advantage in zone 3. Okay, that's why when the 9 is far, because the ball is still in the first zone, 9 is offering a line of pass in the same channel where the ball is to play a third man action, for example. Okay, or 9 is trying to be in the same line where the ball is to try to block the center back to jump, and then a player between lines can receive that ball. So 9 has a lot of can do a lot of actions when the ball is far to make sure that the ball will get to the third zone in a positional advantage. Okay, but then when the 9 becomes the closer one, when the ball is already in the third zone, it's so important that 9 starts movements in the opposite direction where the ball is. In other words, we could say diagonally. First of all, to attack blind angles. Okay, why diagonal passes are so good? Because you attack blind angles of the opponents, and also by doing diagonal moves, it's possible that the center backs don't see the 9, so 9 could receive the ball. But if center backs follow the 9, maybe there is a space between lines that could an 8, 9 or the winger could use to do a penetration move. So it's so difficult to talk about this without a soccer board, but basically 9 has two options in the positional style, has two roles. The one when he's far from the ball to make sure that he will give line of pass, or he will work on concepts to make sure that the ball will get in the second or third zone with an advantage. And then when the 9 becomes the closer player of the possessor of the ball, it's important that 9 starts using the concept of the opposite movement, okay, which is start attacking blind angles. So
very good.
Yes.
Very good point, Bernie. Basically, if you want to make it more simple, when the ball is far away from the 9, 9 does things to make sure that the ball arrives to a teammate, not to him, but to a teammate. If I'm far away as a 9 from the ball position, I'm gonna do things by using my positioning to make sure that the ball reaches to a teammate in that space between lines. When the ball is close to me, I start doing things, I start moving to get advantage for myself. Far away for the teammate. Ball comes close for myself. So that's the two mentalities that could have the 9 in the positional style while trying to reach the last line of defenders.
Okay, thanks, guys. Move on to the next question here. Maybe that's sorry. Kind of go with the defending. You may have touched on this. I assume you're going to talk through some of the rondos of positional games here, but talking about defending, I think a lot of people talk about using attacking concepts and focusing on attacking concepts within rondos and positional games, and how effective they can be for teaching defending and pressure cover balance here.
Mickey will answer this, but before Mickey answers this, I will talk about one point that I wanted to mention before. In APFC, we follow the training structure, which is rondos, positional games, speed, small sided games, but also we have drills that we call it concept drills. Concept drills are these drills that they don't need to follow the training structure, which it means that they don't have maybe directionality, or are drills that they don't have the variables of purpose to progress, or there is no directions. So why we do these drills? These drills sometimes are okay to add it, especially if you want to work on a specific concept like this one, or it's the first time that you are introducing a concept. If it's the first time you are introducing this concept, you can do a drill where the players can really see what is the concept that we are working. And when this drill or this concept is understood, because players can see it, then you go to positional game or you go to SSPs and you try to work globally. Globally means trying to recreate this concept in a real game situation, which is positional games, SSPs. But not everything are rondos, everything are positional games. We also have these concept drills in the online course. More or less for each concept, we add 3-4 concept drills to give an idea to the coaches how they could also work on the different concepts that we're teaching. And of course, for example, in the rondo, it's hard to work on this concept, but there are positional games, and the SSPs that basically with SSP and positional games, you can work on the 90% of the concepts that we're teaching. Mickey, now I just wanted to explain to you coaches that also we work on concept drills, that we cannot do a training session only based on concept drills because it doesn't make sense. But in our training structure, in our day, in our training, we can add sometimes one drill that is more specific, and so you can eliminate or you can skip the SSP, for example, for one day, and instead of that, you do a concept drill. Okay, Mickey.
Before, Ryan, should we answer the question of play what you see in the chat before going to that? Because that's an interesting question. I don't know how you want to do it. Up to you.
Well, maybe since we've kind of gone down the road with this question, maybe finishing this question and just going next one.
Okay. Well, do you do specific exercise for defending, such as, or do you teach them through the rondos? I do a lot of exercise to train specific defending concepts, and this also it's something that it's open for any coach to decide. But knowing how to defend, it's equally important that knowing how to attack. We assume that we have the ball and we would love to play with it to score a goal using positional style or the individual foundations or some specific team foundations. But when we don't have the ball, we really should try to understand how we can recover it as quickly as we can. One thing would be in this scenario of a transition, or the other thing would be what happens if a team outplay you and they are really having the control. Then you also need to know or to understand what defensive shape and what intentions you should have as a team to not let opposing team outplay you and really have the control of the game. Also, for example, as a simple question as the goal kick from opposing team, You can have your own mechanisms and your own strategy, but that would be more a team foundation, and especially related to opposing teams' intention, whether they play long or they want to use associative style. But also here, you should know the placement of your players on what you want to create and where you want to recover that ball. So they are crucial, and there are several ways to understand them. There are those concepts that really affect a line of players. For example, as the opposing team is doing the build-up, probably we will have to teach our striker and our wingers the first line of pressure, how to orientate opposing attack towards the flanks in order to get an equal number situation at the outside channels to recover the ball. And these first guidelines for the first pressing unit, it's something that the second unit of players, midfielders probably, and maybe as well the fullbacks, once the ball has been played at the outer channels, they will use to recover the ball. So here there are concepts. Obviously, the striker, when the ball is being moved by opposing line of four, needs to know how to let one of the center backs slightly progress and beat his position, so we eliminate the other center back, and what is an initial 2v1 already stays as a 1v1. But at the same time that the striker is doing so, the winger needs to understand that the first priority is to close inside passing lanes. So by the organization of these two players, which we can really work on it through an SSP, because SSP can be on the way down, attackers against defenders to work on our last third, but also on the way up, defenders against attackers to work on the build-up, but as a secondary target for the defending team who is trying to avoid the build-up, to really know how to recover the ball at the flanks. We would tell precisely this winger to close the inside passing lanes, to tell with his positioning that we open for opposing team the pass for the fullback. And once the fullback receive, the striker is already with the nearest center back, the winger is pressing on the fullback, we have a 2v2, opposing winger is with our fullback, we have a 3v3, and it's a matter of smaller concepts such as defensive reference, distance between players, how to really understand the marking distances that will really help, and obviously the 1v1, because it's going to be a 1v1 situation, those details as well in the course that will really make our defender understand when it's the good time to tackle. But this is just a situation where we're assuming that the ball is ahead of us, that the ball is still with the center backs. Maybe in other situations, the ball has already beaten that first line of pressure, and what we need to understand is that we are lesser numbers, that we are being outnumbered, and we cannot aim for ball recovery because we have an additional player of opposing team coming towards us. That might be a 3v2 or 4v3, whatever it is, a 2v1, and what we have to do is to slow down until further help, or the players that have been beaten ahead of us, our teammates, come back and help us. If you want to really isolate small situations to make the players understand the details in situations of 1v1, 2v2, you can do 2v2 drills, which be precisely a concept drill. And in this 2v2 drill, one player presses the player with the ball, the other one covers. Depending on the body profile of the player with the ball, if he's open to his teammate, maybe we should cover the inside space because he can threaten us with a pass that breaks lines. But if the player with the ball who is being pressed by our teammate, it's facing outside, and by his body profile, he can no longer find the player who stands ahead of us, maybe then I can step up a little bit in order to make sure that I'm already closer to my men. So there are a lot of guidelines and crucial. This is crucial to produce players that they understand how to defend, and more important, that they enjoy in defending, and that they know that defending is to ultimately win the ball back and then enjoy with the ball. It's really, really, really important. There are a lot of strategies, and this could be a master class itself on what are the most important defensive concepts, but I think that I have touched more or less a few ones.
And one of the things I would like to add, it's not really related to this question, but it's related about defensive concepts. Some of the coaches asked to us why in APFC your concepts are mostly offensive or offensive fundamentals or things that the player should learn with the ball. Well, first of all, if the player learn all of these offensive concepts, all of these fundamentals, I promise that your team will defend less. So by the understanding of all of these concepts, you will need to focus less with defensive concepts. Defensive concepts are important, super important, super, okay? But a lot of coaches, they ask to us, should be 50% and 50%, or there are a lot of coaches that we have seen that they spend the session by doing a positional game, focusing on offensive concepts, and then the 50% of the session, it's just defensive drills, because they think that 50 and 50 should be the idea of the training, because offensive and defensive are same important, but really as much offensive teaching concepts you spend as a coach, you will need to defend less. So that's an advice. Okay, next question.
Oh, and Bernard, just to, and if also along with that, looking at the attacking side first would make sense, because especially in forms of how you defend, that if you have your attacking structure in place, that that's what you need to have an effective defensive transition to be able to defend well. If you don't have a good attacking structure, then you're going to have more open spaces, less connection between players to then win it back. Is that correct? So that's in that. So focusing on the attacking part first, sets you up for the ability to defend well. That's when you do lose the ball.
That's the secret of Pep Guardiola in Manchester City. The way that Man City attacks, it's the best way after to recover the ball faster. Depending of how you attack, or it's gonna be more easy than to defend. So it's related. Man City, they use a lot the concept of play fast and repeat the pass. Always repeat. The ball comes from the left, I play again to the left. I repeat. Instead of me going to find the opponent, I make the opponent to come to me. By doing that, I make sure that once I decide to break the line, if we lose the ball, we will be together, because by repeating the passes, I have attract my own players, and then also have attract the opposite players. But if I lose this ball, I have superiority. Then there is another styles, like you can attack, and when you do a switch of play, instead of repeat the pass to the same place where the ball is coming from, the player that is free join the next zone by dribbling and try to create a 2v1. But if this player lost the ball, then you are exposed to a counter-attacker, or you are exposed to don't recover this ball back, because your teammates, they didn't have time enough to go to this area and try to recover this ball. So this is more tactic for youth players. I will recommend you to attract the opponents if there is a space by dribbling. Create the habit of the players should dribble to track the space, and don't be too much obsessed of what happens if you lose the ball. But as older they become, of course, tactics become important. But basically, the secret of Man City is that every time that they attack, the structure is made to defense better after. So I don't know if that was the point, but a little bit it's super related, the positional style of Pep Guardiola, with his idea about how he wants to defend. He makes sure that at the same time he attacks, the team attacks, the team is being positioned in the right way to recover this ball back. So that's the idea.
Great, thanks. And Mickey, what you were alluding to, there was a chat question that came in, and from Eddie here about some of the concepts, specifically play what you see, and then what's the kind of flexibility with that when you've got a certain type of player that can be really dynamic, and I think maybe when you've got like a Hazard or a Mo Salah who can, do you give them more free leeway in those kind of concepts and versus staying more rigid?
Well, I think here depends as well on how much you are willing to let the player be himself. At the end of the day, it's obviously that to turn with the ball, if I have not seen the space at the back, just because I have insight experiences and mechanisms that they let me turn quickly, and I know that most of the times I get advantage of it. This doesn't mean that the most efficient way in order to keep having the ball and in order to increase our chances to move forward towards opposing goal, it's not to take the risk and play what you see. But it's also true that there are players that they have a lot of quality, that they might not follow what is more efficient, and still that they get a positive outcome for them. So I think that here it's also the key of balancing your ideas in regards to what happens or the freedom that the player gets. I won't personally disagree if a player doesn't follow 100% one concept and he gets a positive outcome, because it's part of the process. It's creativity that is showing. The more freedom he has, if he's a quality player, the more things he's going to produce in other situations. If the one doing this, it's a player that clearly has no technical resources to get a positive outcome, I would try to guide him and say, maybe that's not the best option for you, because it really points you on the weak side, and it really highlights your bad habits. I would sit on the player. How happy you want to keep a good player or not? But definitely, if the one turning instead of Salah, in regards to the question, it's Henderson, maybe I tell Henderson to play what he sees, because then probably the ball will reach to Salah. That's my guess.
No, and as a coaches, it's so important that we teach to the player the concepts. Concepts means that what he should do, because should be the right thing. A player must to understand that if he has a bad body profile, he has more chances to lose that ball. It's because that we will tell him to don't turn, play what you see, because if you have a bad profile, it makes sense that there is more risk to lose that ball. If he has a good profile, okay, go. But of course, everything is not concepts. Mickey was saying that you have to understand your players. Concepts is also creativity. And if these players are capable to use a visual fake while they are facing back, while they have a bad body profile, but use this concept of visual fake to, at the same time, turn, of course. Also, concepts like never turn are applied to zone 1, zone 2. That's why Rodri or Busquets, it's really important that they understand that, because the risk is so high. But in zone 3, we will not really talk a lot about the concept of never turn or play what you see. I mean, tell to Zlatan Ibrahimovic never turn, it doesn't make sense. So these concepts basically are more to understand the game, to tell to the players that be careful if you turn, because you have a bad body profile. But then the creativity or the quality of the players, it's what makes the difference. For example, one of the, now I'm going to use an example. My brother, he plays professional, okay, and in Spain, and he's a left back. You know that as a left back, you should not try 1v1s because if you lose that ball, then your team is exposed to a counter-attacker, or you can score, the other team can score a goal against you. But he has a really good 1v1 because he used to be winger, and the coach used him sometimes that when there are equal situations, when the other team does a man-to-man, he tells him, try the 1v1. Okay, so one thing are the rules or the concepts that as a coach I should learn, because are concepts and rules that the game has for itself, but then you have to understand your players, obviously.
Great, thanks. Yeah, so if anybody else has any more questions, you can feel free to chat them now. But kind of waiting with if anybody has any of those, just to follow up on what you just mentioned. And I think this is kind of a tricky thing because I think I think I saw a video on Twitter yesterday of Thiago Bayern. There were a couple of clips of him kind of receiving the ball and kind of flicking it around the defender and kind of real acceleration. And I don't see that necessarily as a contradiction of never playing playing only what you see. I think that's a function of that player has a very high level of spatial awareness and has their head up and has analyzed the situation, and not something that they're just kind of making up on their, in the moment, is that they know what to expect and they've seen this pattern play out over and over again and how in their growth as a player. And so what, someone can see as a contradiction of like, oh, this player doesn't do exactly what, is taught in some of these concepts, is they're actually, I think it kind of goes hand in hand of what they're actually showing, have their head up and have analyzed the situation before it's even happened. And so what the decision they made, is more apt to work out. So I don't know. I know it's tricky because I think some people you can point to kind of some things that contradict, but I think too is that it's also the pattern recognition of professional players to that they've seen this over and over and over again, that they're able to master these types of situations. And then whereas at a youth level, you may have to be more concrete and rigid to until they have that mastery, until they have all those hours of practice to then kind of be able to analyze a situation in real time. I don't know. I just, from my experience as in the youth soccer space, I think there's a much different way youth soccer players obviously think than experts in the pro level. So
yeah.
But our job as a coach is explain to Thiago why, if he tried this and he lost the ball, why he has lost the ball. Hey, Thiago, you lost the ball because you were facing back and you tried to turn. So as a coaches, you could explain him why he has lost the ball. But then if his awareness, he's able to check shoulders, he's able to understand how far the opponent is. And even if he's facing back, but he has checked everything around him, he decides to go forward. Okay, perfect. Because he knows the concept, but he changed that decision because he trusts on his qualities. At the end, the game is for the players. But if Thiago lost that ball, as a coach, you have to tell him, Thiago, you know why you lose that ball, right? Yeah, I was facing back. So one thing are the rules or the concepts that the game has, and the other thing is try to adapt this to your players. But we're talking about Thiago. What you can see in the youth game of here in the United States or whatever country, the players that are 12, 13, 14, 10 years old, that they don't play in a high level, the 90% of the times that they try to turn by having a bad body profile, they lose the ball. So you have to, as a coaches, explain them why this is happening, to them understand, and maybe consequence of that, they will work on having a better body profile. But then the high level, of course, if I had Messi and I can put Messi as a 6 or as a left back, I will tell him try 1v1s or turn every time you want, you know. But that's one thing is the concepts, and the other thing is your players.
Okay, great. Yeah, I didn't see if I put anything in the chat, so I think we'll just leave it there. But I really appreciate Bernat making your time, and Mickey, I know it's late where you are in Spain. Appreciate your time and sharing this knowledge. I think it's really really good stuff. Actually, someone just chatted something. Oh, Eddie, thank you. Okay, so I hope everybody that was valuable, and we'll post this along with the coaching education series on our website. And yeah, I really encourage if you're live watching this, but also recording, that you check out APFC. They've got, again, I'm part of their membership there, and I think it's really quality education. So is there anything last things you guys want to say, or would you wrap up?
No, I know, Ryan, that sometimes you post the videos on YouTube. If someone watches this later and has some questions related about what we have talked today, they can reach us, info@apfccourses.com. So I'm gonna maybe or our website, which is apfccourses.com, or even they can comment on the YouTube video, and we will try to check this. So if you have more questions and you watch this video later, please feel free to contact us.
Okay, so that's info@apfcourses.com.
Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, again, I appreciate your time. Thanks a lot for answering these questions, and hope everybody found this useful.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan. Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.